40 plants that will grow in water and how to grow them at home. You don't need soil to grow food or houseplants. In fact, some of the easiest plants to grow at home will thrive in nothing but water. No digging, no mess, no complicated setup. Just a container, clean water, and the right plants. And here's the part nobody tells beginners. Some of the easiest, fastest growing, and most forgiving plants on the planet actually grow better in water than in soil. So if you've ever killed a plant before, this might be the method that finally works for you. I'm going to show you 40 plants you can grow in water at home, step by step, even if you've never grown anything before. Some of these will grow in a glass on your windowsill. Others can turn into full indoor jungles. A few will even give you food. But before we get into it, I want to know something. Drop a comment right now. Have you ever tried growing plants in water before, or is this your first time? Because by the end of this, you're going to see plants very differently. Let's start simple. Plant 1. Pothos. If there's one plant that proves you don't need soil to succeed, it's Pothos. This plant is almost impossible to kill, and that's not an exaggeration. You've probably seen it before. Long trailing vines, heart-shaped leaves, grows everywhere from homes to offices. Here's what most people don't realize. Pothos actually thrives in water. Not survives, thrives. All you need is a cutting. Take a vine, cut just below a node, that little bump where leaves grow, and place it in water. That's it. Within a few days, roots start forming. Within a couple of weeks, you'll see a full root system. No fertilizer needed at the beginning, no soil, no stress. But here's where beginners mess up. They forget to change the water. Stagnant water leads to rot, bacteria, and slow growth. Change it every 5 to 7 days, and your plant will grow aggressively. You can keep it in water permanently or transfer it to soil later. Both work. Now here's a question for you. Would you trust a plant that grows this easily, or does it feel too simple to be real? Plant 2. Lucky bamboo. This one confuses a lot of people because it's not actually bamboo, but it might be the most famous water-grown plant in the world. Lucky bamboo is built for water growing. In fact, that's how it's commonly sold. All you need is a container, clean water, and something to support the stalks, like pebbles. No soil required. But there's one critical detail most beginners ignore: water quality. Tap water with chlorine can slowly damage the plant. If your water is heavily treated, let it sit out overnight before using it, or use filtered water. Keep the roots submerged, but not the entire stalk. Too much water exposure leads to rot. And here's something interesting. This plant can live for years in just water if maintained properly. No soil, no repotting, no mess. So now think about this. If a plant can live for years in just water, how many of your current plants are struggling because of soil, not because of you? Plant 3. Mint. Now let's switch from decorative to edible. Mint is one of the fastest growing herbs you can grow in water, and it's aggressive. In soil, it spreads like crazy. In water, it grows just as fast, but controlled. Take a fresh cutting, remove the lower leaves, and place it in water. Within days, roots start forming. Within weeks, you'll have usable leaves. You can literally harvest and regrow continuously. But here's the mistake most beginners make. They don't trim it. Mint grows fast, but if you don't prune it, it becomes leggy and weak. Cut it regularly, and it becomes fuller and stronger. Now imagine this. Instead of buying mint every week, you just walk over to your window and cut fresh leaves. Would you actually use that, or would it still go to waste? Plant 4. Spider plant. Spider plants are beginner favorites for a reason. They're adaptable, forgiving, and multiply like crazy. But here's the part most people miss. Those little baby plants, called spiderets, can grow directly in water. You don't even need to cut from the main plant initially. Just place the baby plant in water and it starts rooting almost immediately. This makes propagation ridiculously easy. And once it roots, you can keep it in water permanently or transfer it to soil later. Both work. But here's a pro tip. Bright, indirect light speeds up growth dramatically. Low light won't kill it, but it slows everything down. So ask yourself this. Are your plants struggling because they're hard to grow or because they're in the wrong spot?
Plant 5. Green onion. This one feels almost too simple, but it works every time. Take a green onion from your kitchen, use what you need, keep the white root base. Place it in a glass with a little water. Within days, it regrows. Within a week, you've got usable greens again. No soil, no gardening tools, nothing complicated. And here's what surprises most people. You can repeat this multiple times. Same plant, multiple harvests. But eventually, growth slows. That's your signal to replace it. Still, think about the efficiency here. You're turning kitchen scraps into food. So let me ask you, how much food are you throwing away that could actually regrow? Plant 6. Basil. Basil in water is a game changer because basil in soil can be frustrating for beginners. Too much water, it rots. Too little, it wilts. In water, that problem disappears. Take a cutting, place it in water, and it roots quickly. But here's where things get interesting. Basil actually prefers stable conditions, so once it starts growing in water, keep it there. Don't constantly move it between soil and water. Consistency matters more than anything. And one more thing most people miss: sunlight. Basil needs strong light. Without it, growth becomes weak and stretched. So if your basil has ever failed before, it might not have been your fault. It might have been your setup.
Plant 7. Philodendron. If you liked Pothos, you'll love Philodendron. Same trailing growth, same water adaptability, same beginner-friendly nature. Cut below a node, place in water, and it roots quickly. But here's the difference. Philodendron tends to grow more structured and slightly slower than Pothos. That makes it easier to manage if you don't want aggressive growth. And here's a subtle tip that makes a big difference. Use a clear container. Not just because it looks good, but because you can monitor root health. Healthy roots are white or light-colored. If they turn dark or slimy, something's wrong. So, here's a question. Do you actually check your plants or just hope they're fine? Plants don't fail because they're hard. They fail because the system you're using doesn't match how they actually grow. Water removes a lot of that friction. No soil problems, no overwatering guesswork, no hidden root issues. And now we're stepping into the category where things get even interesting. Plants that grow fast, plants you can eat, and a few that will genuinely surprise you. Plant 8. Lettuce. Most people think lettuce needs a garden bed. It doesn't. You can grow lettuce entirely in water, and it's one of the fastest crops you'll ever grow indoors. Take the base of a lettuce head, the part you usually throw away, place it in shallow water, and give it light. Within days, new leaves start forming from the center. Now, here's the truth most people won't tell you. It won't regrow into a full, supermarket-sized head, but that's not the goal. The goal is continuous, small harvests. You cut what you need, and it keeps producing for a while. But here's the mistake beginners make. They submerge too much of the plant. Only the base should touch water. Too much water equals rot. So think about this. Would you rather grow one perfect head of lettuce or have a steady supply you can harvest anytime? Plant 9. Celery. Celery works almost exactly like lettuce, but even more dramatic. Take the base, Place it in water and watch the center come back to life. New stalks, new leaves, same plant. And the growth is surprisingly fast. Within a week, you'll see visible changes. But here's the catch. Celery loves light. Without enough light, it grows thin, weak, and pale. So, if you've ever tried this and failed, chances are it wasn't the method, it was the lighting. And here's something most people don't realize. Once it starts growing, you can transfer it to soil or keep it in water for shorter harvest cycles. Both work. So now I'm curious, would you actually regrow something like celery? Or does it feel like too much effort for too little reward? Plant 10. Sweet potato vine. This one surprises almost everyone, because you're not just growing food, you're growing one of the most beautiful trailing plants you can have indoors. Take a sweet potato, suspend it halfway in water using toothpicks, and wait. Within days to weeks, roots grow downward and vines grow upward. Long, flowing vines. It turns into a decorative plant. But here's the twist. Those vines can also be cut and propagated further. One potato can turn into multiple plants. Now here's the mistake. People expect to harvest big potatoes from this setup. That's not what this is for. This is primarily for vine growth, not tuber production. So the real value is a single kitchen item becomes a decorative, multiplying plant. Let me ask you, did you expect something like a sweet potato to turn into a houseplant? Plant 11. Rosemary. Now we're stepping into a slightly trickier category. Rosemary can grow in water, but it tests your patience. Unlike mint or basil, it takes longer to root, sometimes weeks. And this is where most beginners quit too early. They assume it's not working. But once it roots, it becomes incredibly resilient. Here's how you do it right. Use soft, fresh cuttings, not woody stems. Remove lower leaves, place in clean water, and be patient. And here's the key detail. Change the water regularly. Rosemary is sensitive to stagnation. So if you've struggled with herbs before, ask yourself, do you give plants enough time or do you expect instant results?
Plant 12. Oregano. Oregano is like rosemary's easier cousin. Same idea, but faster, more forgiving. Take a cutting, place it in water, and roots form relatively quickly. And once it starts growing, it doesn't demand much. But here's something most people overlook: flavor intensity. Oregano grown in water can sometimes be milder than soil grown. Why? Because stress often increases flavor in herbs. So if you want stronger flavor later, you can always transfer it to soil. But for beginners, water is the easiest starting point. So here's a question. Would you prioritize ease or maximum flavor? Plant 13. Sage. Sage is another herb that works, but with conditions. It roots in water, but slower than mint or oregano, and it doesn't like constant disturbance. Once you place it in water, leave it alone. No moving it around, no constant checking. Let it do its thing. And here's something interesting. Some plants fail because of too much attention, not too little. Sage is one of them. So be honest. Do you tend to overhandle your plants or ignore them too much? Plant 14. Peace lily. Now we shift back to decorative plants, but with a twist. Peace lilies are usually grown in soil, but they can adapt to water. And when they do, they become one of the cleanest, lowest maintenance indoor plants you can have. No soil mess, no repotting, just water. But here's the catch. You can't just drop a soil-grown plant into water overnight. You need to remove all soil from the roots, rinse them thoroughly, then place them in water. Otherwise, you introduce bacteria and rot.
And here's the payoff: a sleek, minimal, almost hydroponic-looking plant that still produces those iconic white blooms. So let me ask, would you prefer plants that look natural and messy, or clean and controlled like this?
Plant 15. Coleus. Coleus is one of the fastest propagators on this list. Bright, colorful leaves, bold patterns, instant visual impact. And in water, it roots insanely fast, sometimes within just a few days. This makes it perfect for beginners who want quick results. But here's the interesting part. Coleus grown in water often looks even more vibrant initially, but long-term, it may need nutrients to maintain that color. So if you keep it in water long-term, consider occasional feeding. Still, for propagation and short to medium growth, it's one of the easiest wins you can get. Plant 16. Begonia. Begonias are underrated for water growing, especially certain types that propagate easily from cuttings. Take a stem cutting, place it in water, and roots develop over time. But here's where it gets interesting. Some begonias can even grow from leaf cuttings, not just stems. That means a single leaf can turn into a new plant. That's multiplication at a different level. But here's the caution. They prefer clean conditions. Dirty water slows everything down, so consistency matters. Plant 17. English ivy. Ivy has a reputation for being aggressive outdoors, but indoors, in water, it becomes controlled and elegant. Trailing vines, classic look, very adaptable. Cut below a node, place in water, and it roots steadily. But here's something beginners often miss. Ivy prefers cooler conditions. Too much heat slows it down, so if your home runs hot, growth may be slower. And one more thing, don't overcrowd your container. Ivy needs space to develop healthy roots. Plant 18. Parsley. Parsley is slower than mint, but still doable in water. And once it establishes, it's surprisingly consistent. Take a cutting, place it in water, and wait for roots. But here's the key difference. Parsley needs strong light. Without it, growth becomes weak. And here's where most people fail. They treat all herbs the same, but each one has slightly different needs, so success comes down to adjustment, not just effort. Plant 19. Garlic greens. This one is almost effortless. Take a garlic clove, place it in a small amount of water, and watch what happens. Green shoots start growing from the top. These are edible. Mild garlic flavor, great for garnishing or cooking. And the speed? Fast. Within days, you'll see growth. But here's the limitation. You're not growing full garlic bulbs this way, just greens. Still, it's one of the easiest ways to grow something edible indoors. Plant 20. Scindapsus, or Satin Pothos. At first glance, this looks like regular pothos, but it's different. Thicker leaves, silvery patterns, slower, more controlled growth. And yes, it grows in water just as easily. Same method, cut below a node, place in water, and wait for roots. But here's why people love it. It looks more premium, more decorative, less wild than pothos. So if pothos feels too common, this is the upgrade. Now, let me ask you something. Do you care more about function or how your plants actually look in your space? Now you're starting to see the pattern. This isn't about lucky plants or random hacks. There's a system behind this. Plants that grow in water tend to share a few traits. They root easily from nodes or cuttings, they tolerate constant moisture, and they don't depend heavily on soil microbes to survive. And once you understand that, this stops being a list and starts becoming a skill. So now we move into the final stretch. This is where most people say, wait, that grows in water too? Plant 21. Tradescantia, wandering Jew, or inch plant. If you want fast, visible progress, this is one of the best plants you can grow.
Tradescantia roots extremely quickly, sometimes in just a couple of days. Drop a cutting in water and it almost immediately starts developing roots. But here's why people love it: the color. Purple, green, striped, depending on the variety. It doesn't just grow, it stands out. But here's the catch most beginners miss. It grows fast, but it also gets leggy fast. If you don't trim it, it stretches and loses its compact look. So regular pruning isn't optional, it's part of the system. Plant 22. Monstera, Swiss cheese plant. This is where things start to feel premium. Monstera is one of the most popular indoor plants right now. Those big split leaves, that's what everyone wants. And yes, you can grow it in water. Take a cutting with a node, place it in water, and it roots. But here's the difference from smaller plants. It takes longer, and it needs more support as it grows. You're not just growing a small herb anymore, you're growing a statement plant. And here's the mistake beginners make. They underestimate how big it gets. So they start in a tiny glass, then struggle to scale up. Start with a container that gives roots space.
Plant 23. Dracaena. Dracaena is already known for being low maintenance, but in water, it becomes even simpler. Cut a stem section, place it in water, and it roots slowly but steadily. And once it's established, it's incredibly tolerant. Low light, it manages. Irregular care, still survives. But here's the important detail. Don't submerge too much of the stem. Only the bottom part should sit in water. Too much exposure leads to rot. So precision matters here more than effort. Plant 24. Chinese Evergreen, or Aglaonema. This is one of those plants people assume is too advanced. It's not. It adapts to water surprisingly well. And the benefit? It's one of the most tolerant indoor plants you can own. Low light, inconsistent care, it still holds up. But here's what changes in water. Growth slows slightly compared to soil, but maintenance becomes easier. So it becomes a trade-off. Speed versus simplicity. Which one matters more to you? Plant 25. Fiddle leaf fig. Cuttings only. Now this one needs honesty. You can grow fiddle leaf fig cuttings in water, but it's not beginner easy. It roots slowly, and not every cutting succeeds. This is where patience becomes critical. If you're expecting quick results, this will frustrate you. But if it works, you've propagated one of the most expensive-looking houseplants from a single cutting. Plant 26. Peppermint. We talked about mint earlier, but peppermint deserves its own spotlight because it's even more aggressive, faster growth, stronger aroma, and in water it takes off quickly. But here's the downside. It can outgrow its container fast, so you need to trim it regularly. Otherwise, it becomes messy and weak. So this becomes a management question, not a growth problem. Plant 27. Kale regrow method. Most people don't think of kale as something you can regrow, but like lettuce, the base can produce new leaves in water. It's not infinite. It won't replace full harvests, but it extends the life of what you already bought. And once again, the principle shows up. You're not just growing plants, you're reducing waste. Plant 28. Carrot tops. Here's one that confuses people. You can't grow full carrots in water, but you can grow carrot greens. Take the top of a carrot, place it in shallow water, and greens start growing. These aren't just decorative, they're edible. Slightly bitter, but usable. So again, this is about maximizing what you already have. Plant 29. Cabbage base. Same idea as lettuce and celery. Take the base, place it in water, and watch the center regrow. And just like before, it won't become a full head again, but it gives you usable leaves, and it reinforces something important. Regrowth is about extension, not perfection. Plant 30. Chives.
Chives are one of the easiest herbs to regrow in water. Place the root base in water and they bounce back quickly. And once they start growing, you can keep cutting and reusing. But here's the trick. Don't cut too low. Leave enough for regrowth. Otherwise, you slow the cycle, so it becomes a balance between harvesting and sustaining. Plant 31. Lemon balm. This is one of the most overlooked herbs. Easy to root, pleasant scent, calming properties, and in water, very manageable. But here's what makes it interesting. It's not just about growth, it's about use. Teas, aroma, relaxation. So some plants give you more than just visuals or food. They change your environment. Plant 32. Tarragon. Tarragon is less common, but still works. Cuttings root in water, though slower than mint or basil. And once established, it's a steady grower. But here's the key. It needs good light. Without it, growth stalls. So again, the pattern shows up. Light is not optional. Plant 33. Stevia. This one surprises people. A plant that produces natural sweetness grown in water. Stevia cuttings can root in water with the right conditions, and once they grow, the leaves can be used as a sugar substitute. But here's the reality. It needs strong light and stable conditions, so it's slightly more advanced, but still doable. Plant 34. Impatiens. Bright flowers, fast growth, and yes, they root easily in water. This makes them perfect for propagation. You can multiply them quickly. But here's the catch. They don't stay in water forever. Eventually, they perform better when transferred to soil. So think of water as the starting point, not the final system. Plant 35. Alternanthera. Not a common household name, but very effective. Colorful foliage, easy propagation, and strong visual impact. It roots well in water and grows steadily. This is where you start moving beyond basic plants into more unique setups. Plant 36. Hypoestes, polka dot plant. This one stands out immediately. Spotted leaves, bright colors, and fast rooting in water. But like Tradescantia, it needs trimming, otherwise it gets leggy. So once again, growth creates responsibility. Plant 37. Maranta, prayer plant. Maranta is known for its moving leaves. And yes, it can root in water, but it's slower and more sensitive than others. So this is where beginners need to be more careful. Clean water, stable conditions, no shortcuts. Plant 38. Sweet basil, long-term water growing. We covered basil earlier, but here's the advanced angle. You can keep basil in water long-term if you feed it, because eventually water alone isn't enough. This is where simple hydroponics begins. Add nutrients and growth continues. So now you're not just growing, you're optimizing. Plant 40. Water spinach, KangKong. This one thrives in water naturally. In fact, it prefers it. Fast growth, edible leaves, and perfect for warm climates. This is one of the closest things to a natural water plant on this list. Plant 40. Bamboo cuttings, true bamboo, advanced. Not lucky bamboo, real bamboo. This is more advanced. It can root in water initially, but long-term it needs more support. So again, water becomes the starting phase, not the final system. Now here's what most people get wrong. At this point, you've seen 40 plants, but if you try this without understanding the system, you'll still struggle. So let's fix that. Rule 1. Water is not set and forget. You must change it regularly. Every 5 to 7 days is a good baseline. Otherwise, bacteria builds up. Rule 2. Light controls everything. Low light equals slow growth. Good light equals fast growth. This is the difference between success and frustration. Rule 3. Roots tell you the truth. Healthy roots are light and firm. Unhealthy roots are dark and slimy. Check them. Don't guess. Rule 4. Not all plants stay in water forever. Some thrive long-term. Others use water as a starting phase. Know the difference. Rule 5. Consistency beats complexity. You don't need perfect conditions. You need stable ones. Final thought. You don't need a garden. You don't need expensive tools. You don't even need soil. You just need to start. Pick one plant from this list. Not 10, not 20. 1. Try it this week. Watch what happens. And once you see it work, everything changes. Before you go, drop a comment. Which of these plants are you actually going to try first? And if you've already tried one, what happened? Like the video if this opened your eyes. Subscribe if you want more simple, practical ways to grow your own food and plants, because the easiest system is usually the one nobody told you about. And now you know it.